Okay, well, may the 4th be with you, everyone. Thank you for joining today's office hours. This is another Apex office hours, and this is going to be part 3 of what's new in Oracle Apex 23.1. And today I'm your host, Jason Haynes. I'm a Senior Principal Product Manager for Oracle Apex. We have a few announcements. So this Apex office hours is part 3, but there was a part 1, and the recording is now available at apex.oracle.com/office hours. Part 2 we did last week with Vincent, Andrea, and Zolt, and that recording will be available soon. And then in a week from now, we're going to have Karsten and Peter on part 4 for May 11th. So in terms of events, obviously Apex office hour, what's new? Coming up again next week. And then May 18th, we have Apex office hours for JPAC, solving integration challenges. So there's a different URL for this. So pay attention to that on your screen if you would. And then after that, we're going to have Apex in Spanish, Introduction to Plugins. And then on June 12th, which really isn't that far away, we're going to have Apex in Romanian, which is going to be pretty cool in of itself. So hopefully you can sign up for reminders of joining those office hours coming up. So conferences going on, or if not, maybe already completed today in Berlin, Germany, was Apex Connect. And then the next one up here in Florida, USA is Ascend 23. I will actually be there and presenting. That's in June 11th to 14th. That's coming up pretty quick. And of course, Kscope 23 happening with the first ever Apex Boot Camp in Colorado, USA. And that's at kscope23.odtug.com in the last week of June. So hopefully we can all see you there. There's going to be a number of us from the Apex development team there to present in person and also to conduct the Apex Boot Camp. So we're very excited to have this for the first time ever and be able to present and talk about how to build Apex applications and take everything that you're learning to develop in Apex to the next level. So today, in part 3 of what's new in Apex 23.1, we're going to have presentations from Menno and Dalia and Paige talking about template components, universal theme updates, download and upload themes in Theme Roller. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Menno, who's going to talk about template components. Let's go, Menno. I can't wait to hear more about this because I'll be honest, I paid attention to the spec reviews. I've looked at this. I've seen some demonstrations, and this is my head. I don't understand how these work. So help me out, help everyone out on the call. Let's learn about template components in Apex 23.1.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks, Jason. I hope I will get everybody to understand what this feature is about, because it's indeed, at first glance, maybe hard to comprehend how it's working, but it all makes sense, I would say at least. So I have prepared a sample application, demo application that I've also used on the Apex World Conference. So I'm running my own local 23.1 instance, and today we're going to talk about template components. And before I want to go into how they work, I want to show you what kind of issues we had in the past or until now with our templates that we supported, for instance, in Universal Theme. So if you would look at the Universal Theme application, there's a page that will show you all the components. So a theme exists out of components, and all these components are template-based. And a good one, the first issue, I can display very well with the button template, because you might think a button template is very easy. You just render a button with a text on it. But even for the button template, we used to have, or we still have actually, 3 templates. So if you want to display button with text, then select the button and set the template to text. If you would do that for an icon button, you have to use a different template, and also for the text and icon template. So that's 3 button templates just for universal theme buttons. And each of those templates, which we have 3 of, they have hot and the normal, the regular one. And that makes a total of 6 templates just to show buttons, which is quite a lot and duplicate template going on. That's issue 1. Then there's another issue, which I would like to discuss today, is that, let's say you want to show a comments region, like you see here below. Your boss or your manager asks, can you please add a comments region to the page? Well, if you're new to Apex and this is your first assignment, it's quite hard to get it working, because what you need to do is actually don't create a comments region. No, you have to create a classic report on your page. That's the region type. Then you have to change to the attribute tab, find the template section there, and switch to use the comments template. That's maybe hard for first-time users, but I guess most of us will understand how this works using Apex for a couple of years. But there is even another more serious downside of this, and that's with the substitution strings. So each template has substitution strings, but enable to use it in Page Designer, if you have your region source query, you have to map your column names to the actual name that is used in the template as substitution string. And that's quite complicated. So here you see user icon is also defined in the template. The command date has to be equal to the command date here. The name, username, the same. And that goes on for all the other attributes as well. And this was always an issue because in Page Designer, you don't really see which substitution strings are available for the template that you chose. And then you get this kind of complex query that makes it overall complicated. So those are the three issues. I guess there are more, but the three issues that I would like to highlight today. And then if we go back to my application here, the first thing that was with the 6 button templates, I have an example here because we introduced a few releases ago the template directives. And currently they work both on the server side and the client side. And what they do, these template directives, that is a special thing in Apex, special tokens in a template that control how the text around it is processed. You can learn more about the syntax, but I will go straight to the examples now. And I've set up a quite simple example for the button template. So my template I defined here, that's the orange piece of text. And I'm calling the Apex util apply template. So this template is going to be applied by JavaScript, by the client. And while applying the template, I'm passing in these placeholders that determine the output of the template. And what I've done is I've modified the button template to be able to work in all 6 scenarios with a single template instead of 6 separate templates. And that's by using these template directives. So if we will have a look, we open up the button element, then we always add the tButton class, but only in case the button needs to be hot. And this is the first template directive. Then we would like to add the tButton hot class. And then we close the if directive. So if I would say hot is yes in here, because it will evaluate to truthy in that case, I will rerun it and you will see that it indeed gets hot. The second directive is to be seen here, case where of the type. When the button type is text, then don't do anything. This is an empty directive. But otherwise, if it's not text, then we want to show the icon. So then all this part gets rendered. So if I change here to icon, you will see that it actually works. I don't get a text, but I do get my icon. And the last case is here, when the type of the button is icon. I just want to see I don't want to do anything, but if it's not an icon button, then I would like to have the text to be included. So this is what we can do with template directives, and that's pretty cool, and that really simplifies our templating in Apex. And then we have the new thing, which is called template components. And its goal is this: anyone with templated skills can create reusable UI components that work in Page Designer like any plugin. So that's already a bit weird, right? Usually we have templates in Apex, they belong to a theme, and then totally separated, we have plugins. And this is the first template type that is implemented as a plugin. And that actually makes sense because when you look at the issue that I had, that my region source query, all those column names needed to map to the substitution string from the template. While using this plugin infrastructure, in each plugin, you can create custom attributes that are displayed in Page Designer, and they let you do the mapping declaratively. And that was always missing when it came to templates. So template components solve that issue. Of course, they support template directives, but they're executed on the server. That's a good thing to remember. They support CSS and JavaScript files, and I have examples of that as well, because it might make sense to implement your template component as a web component. And a web component always needs to initialize itself using some JavaScript. It introduces action positions and action templates. That means whenever the template is rendered, and for each row of data, you want to interact with it, right? The customer or the user of the application might expect a button to be able to do something with that row. That's what the actions are for. You can create new regions based on a template component. Now, this was the other issue I mentioned, that until now, if you wanted to have comments on your page, you have to select Classic Report. And not anymore. You can select any template component that you've defined straight in Page Designer as a region type. And they're also included on the page wizard. And I will show you in a minute that the universal theme is shipped with a few template components. And that's what we have here, the theme support. If you install Apex 23.1 and you upgrade universal theme, you will see that you have all kinds of template components as part of universal theme that you can use right away. For instance, the comments template component will be there. And now I'd like to show you a few use cases. So where can you use these template components in Page Designer? Well, you can use them in an interactive report. That's the first example. Right here, I have an interactive report with normal columns, but this column looks a bit differently. The region itself, it selects region sources for my current application. So I see a bunch of them. And I know that this is SQL, and I wanted that to be highlighted with the SQL code. So what I've done is I've created a template component that highlights my SQL text. And that was actually really easy to do. So I can use that here in an interactive report, but I can also use it in a single mode region. And this region doesn't have any template at all. It only renders the template component inside of it. And if I refresh it, it will show any random query of my application. So the single mode means that you can select in your region a single row of data. And then you don't get all the overhead of pagination and what you do in between rows, because that's what you only need in the multiple mode, which is again for regions where you can show multiple rows of data. And in this case, I'm showing information from the stock markets. This very much look like cards region, but it's not. It's a custom template component, and you can influence the look and feel of it and do what you want. And it also, whenever it's used in multiple mode, you always get pagination out of the box. Then the last use case where I use a classic report. And although we didn't touch much of the classic report functionality, we allow you to call or use one of your existing template components in an HTML expression of a classic report column. And we do that by using the with and apply template directives. So let's go have a look at this page. On this page, I will go only in detail into the code block example. That's this one. Here you see my interactive report. I have a bunch of normal columns, but the last column, you see that the icon is different and that the column type is code block. That's none of the built-in column types of the interactive report, but it's one of my plugins, my template component type plugins. And then the nice thing is that it has these settings, and this is the custom attributes from the plugin merging into your page designer. What is the source of my code? In this case, it's a column and that's called region source. And what is the language of that code? And this is a static list of values, and I've defined that I'm sure that it will contain SQL as a language. It's almost the same for the single mode. There you specify that your region type is code block. So in Page Designer, you will never see the template component. That's only for the person that develops these template component type plugins. And again, you can set your attributes that come from your plugin right here declaratively. So it doesn't really matter what kind of SQL statement you have. It doesn't need to map on column names. Instead, you do the mapping right here. The manual usage, I will show you that. It's again pretty simple query, but here I have an HTML expression and I'm saying with these two placeholders, I'm assigning these values to it. The region source is what to use for my code. The language is going to be SQL. And now I want you to apply code block. And then it looks up for a static identifier of any template component type plugin with this static identifier and applies it. In shared components, you will go to plugins as usual, and there you will see all your template component type plugins appearing. And code block is a really easy one, and I've created this in just a few minutes. So what do you need to specify? Well, first of all, a nice name that shows up in Page Designer. The internal name is how to use it with the with and apply syntax. Then in this case, I specify that I want to use it in a single mode only. And the single mode is for a region with a single record, also for an interactive report column. If you're not sure where this is usable, always check the help text. Single mode has just one template, and that's my whole template. I'm starting a custom element. This is a web component of code block. I need to define which language the code is. So these are placeholders of the template, and then I'm closing it. Below here, you see that the placeholders of my template, they are mapped, they are recreated as custom attributes. So this is the way to show them in Page Designer, that they pop up there. Again, I have my code with a label that's nice to read, and the static identifier maps to the name that I've used here, code and language. This is of session state value, which means I can select any column of my region. The language is a static list of values. I can go into it shortly, but it's I predefined which languages are supported. And I based this really simple template component on an existing web component that is a standalone web component. It has a GitHub page, and it shows you again how simple it is to use it. And what you need to do here is add a CSS file and a JavaScript file. And after you do that, your web component will start to work. So I've done that here below. I have to go back to the plugin page itself, and then it renders. It's still loading. Okay, there it is. So I have my partial, my custom attributes, and you will find here that I've uploaded these two files which were required, and then I'm actually loading them if the plugin is used. And that's it. You don't need to use any more PL SQL callbacks for this kind of plugin. It's literally 3 lines of code enable to get it working in the interactive report, in single mode, and in a classic report. So this is very simple. Like I said, we have the universal theme, and the universal theme includes template components as well. There are a bunch of them. I will start with the avatar. The avatar can be displayed in single mode only, and it can use your profile picture. It can use initials, or it can use initials, but with other settings. Again, it's really easy to use this one, because on this page, I have 3 regions to show up as avatar. I have my image, then my rounded initials, and this variety. If you look at the image, then I'm setting the type to image, and that means I can select an image. In this case, it's a blob column. So that's built in. There's a new custom attribute type where you can say the custom attribute is of type media, and then you get this lower select list. It could also be a URL or a URL column, wherever your image is located. Most things are supported. Then we have the badges, can use in single or multiple mode. So I show here a nice badge list. These are large with a subtle style, and they use circular borders, but you can change the look and feel of them by setting different sizes, using outline styling, applying state colors, and even show the label and show an icon. All those things that you can do so by using the attributes of this region and simply say what the shape is, if they are supposed to be large or small. We have a bunch of built-in sizes. The same with the shape. Very easy to use. I'll now go to content row because that's the most advanced one. What you can see here is a few extra things. So first of all, this is nicely formatted. I see that I have here some kind of icon, and this looks like a badge again, and a status. But I also have an edit button, and I even have a drop-down menu. And all these things are declarative. So I can easily update the status of this one. I have here my external order by item. All that functionality works as well. So I can change my order by. I can even apply faceted search on them and see only the closed ones. Pagination is supported. So I can scroll down. I have 73. Now I see 1 to 15, 16 to 30. If I would edit one of them and make my changes or hit the back button here in my browser, you will see that whatever pagination was in place is saved. So it's 16 to 30. All that stuff is saved. If we look fast into Page Designer for the content row, what you see here is that you have your content row template component plugin with all the attributes, but what they also have is actions, and those are the buttons that I could click on. So I have an edit button that redirects me to another page, but also have a full action menu, and you can create it with many levels deep as you want to. So I say the template in this case is a menu, then I can add menu entries, and in this case I have update status is an entry, is a submenu actually that contains the 4 statuses, then I have a separator, and I have another entry to add a comment, which you can all set server-side conditions on them, like I've done here. There's so much to explore and to do with these things, and I think the built-in template components from Universal Theme are a really good starting point, and also to see how complex they can become. Last thing I want to show you that these theme-related template components are not here under plugins. No, instead they are under templates, not of type button, but instead they are of type template component. And you will actually see that they are implemented as a plugin, and you can see and explore yourself how advanced these templates become if you use a complicated template. Now it's still loading, but you can see here that it's full of template directives and all kinds of placeholders. And even here we can nest other templates. So if you want to show a badge, then we apply the badge from the universal theme, and it has many, many custom attributes. So again, lots and lots to learn here, but I have only 20 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a small introduction, and I hope, Jason, at least also for you, it's more clear now that these template components totally make sense and that it's the right way to implement as plugins.
Oh, it definitely makes sense. Thank you for the detailed explanation. I'm sure everyone was following along, but I think even I will have to rewatch some of this video to get an understanding. It's one of those things where you just got to start using it to see how well it works and how much time it saves a developer in building some otherwise complex looking things. I mean, simple on the surface, right? But to make it do what it's doing, if you had to do it by hand, would definitely not be low code. And this is just such a thrilling and amazing low code approach to making this very, very, very flexible for all developers.
Yes, 100%. Yep.
Fantastic.
You can make them as easy or complex as you want.
Very cool. All right, here. So just recap real quick. So we just had Menno talking about template components in Apex 23.1. If you want to try any of these features today, you can on apex.oracle.com. You can request a new workspace and you can experiment with everything Menno just demonstrated just now, and with what Paige and Dalia are going to talk about, as well with the other content from the previous 2 office hours. So moving on from Menno, we now have Paige, who's going to talk about our universal theme updates. Over to you, Paige. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Great. Thanks, Jason. And awesome demo, Menno. That actually leads so perfectly into some of these universal theme updates in 23.1 that I'm going to talk about. It might be a little repetitive at the beginning just because just want to rehash a couple of these things with template components in universal theme, as it is a very, very exciting and very big feature. And then we're going to take a look at creating a classic report or creating a template component, a content row template component region. And then we'll dive into a couple of other updates in universal theme. So as Menno already discussed, the old way of using some of these regions had to do with using classic reports and using classic report templates. And so here I have an example of a classic report, and it's using the content row template. And now in 23.1, as Menno discussed, there are built-in template components that can do some of these things that you used to have to go in and use classic report to do. So here's my classic report. Looks very simple, very straightforward. However, on the back end of things, it's not quite that simple. So it comes down to setting up a classic report, selecting the correct split, making sure that all of your columns map to the correct, making sure all your data maps to the correct columns. If even one of these columns is incorrect, then your component will not show up as planned. And so this can be very confusing. It's difficult to remember all these columns specifically. And with the updates to universal theme, include those built-in template components, this has just been made so much easier if you want to create a comments region, content row, media list, or timeline. So we're going to take a quick look at creating a content row region using those new template components. And I'm going to create a new page here. And in the create page wizard, we actually have access to all 4 of those new standalone template component regions. So we have our comments and content row, we have media list, and we have timeline. And it's so simple to just create a page really quickly with some built-in data with these new components. So I'm going to select content row, and I'm going to call this my tasks page, and we'll just go ahead and click create. And without even doing anything, I'm just going to run this page. So this is my new page. I selected what page I wanted to create. I clicked the create button, I clicked save and run, and I already have data out here on my page. Now, it's not really what I want to display. It's not really doing anything for me. So we're going to make some updates to this, but that is how simple it is to start using these new template components in universal theme. It's like, what, 3 clicks, 4 clicks? Really, really straightforward, very simple. Anyone can go in and do this. All right, so we are going to first of all update our data. So this is that built-in data that we didn't even have to do anything with. It already was there when we created the page. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this SQL statement that I have, just validate it, and we can see that all of my columns have been updated. And I'm not even going to worry about touching these columns because everything that we do is going to be through the region attributes. So these attributes are coming from that template component from shared components, that templates page. And the attributes defined in that template component are being mapped directly into Page Designer and is as simple as selecting what data I want to display in which position in this region. So it's a little similar to the cards region in terms of like you can select what column you want to display in the title region, the title position, body, media, stuff like that. So very similar idea. We're just using template components to do that. All right, first of all, I'm going to get rid of this overline text and I'm going to choose a title. I'm going to choose my task name, and we can see that from our quick picks, I just selected our task name column and immediately it's replaced into this title. For description, let's update this to our project name, and miscellaneous, we'll just put our status. That's all I'm going to do for right now. Let's save and run and see what it looks like. And there we go. We have a bunch of data in here. We've only had to do a few clicks and we already have some information up and running. Very straightforward, a lot easier than having to figure out which column names I want to use as we were trying to do in classic report. So along with just simple text displaying in certain regions in this template component, this component also supports displaying avatars and badges. So let's start off by displaying a badge. And we're going to actually change this miscellaneous. We'll change this to assigned to, and let's add a badge. So this template component for this badge position, this is actually using the badge partial in the overall content row component. So content row is a standalone component, whereas badge is just a partial. And so if you look at the template itself, you'll see that the badge partial is being applied directly within this template component. So let's update our label. We'll just choose status, and label is required. You don't have to display it. You can control display with this display label switch. I'm going to leave that off right now, and let's select a value. We'll choose status for the value, move it from miscellaneous to value, and then let's set our state. Let's pull a bit off my page here. Okay. And we'll choose our badge state. And lastly, we'll select an icon. You can either choose from the Apex icons, or I have an icon class. And so I'll just reference that class directly here. Let's leave all the defaults right now. We can play around with that in a second. Save and run this. And here we are. So we have our status, our icon. Some of these icons are kind of blending in. So let's change the default settings for the badge style. And we're going to change it to subtle and see how that looks in comparison. Save and run. And now we can see all of our icons. It's a little bit more subtle to the eye. It's not as bold and very simple, very easy to do. You can also control the shape of these badges, circular or square. Rounded is the default, but you still have that option to select. You can control the size and the column width as well. So if I kind of update those and just take a look, now we can see our badges are square. And since we're using the auto column, the position of the text is going to change based on how big that badge is. So since we have a bit of a variable badge size, that text is kind of floating around based on the badge. All right, so that's badges, pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Let's get rid of our badge and instead look at displaying an avatar in this region. So same deal. avatar as a partial, it's being applied directly in the content row template component. And so now we have access to setting up an avatar within this region. So I switched my display badge switch to off, and display avatar is now set to yes. And so we can see I have access to this avatar property group now. Right now it's just default settings. So icon, we go ahead and fill in this as FA user just to give a value there. We have our default shape and size. If we don't do anything, save and run this, then we can see we have our default icon here. This user icon isn't really helpful for what we want here in this content row. So let's go ahead and update this. And we're just going to reference that same icon class here. And we are going to update the shape to no shape and set the size to, let's go extra small just for fun. And here we go. We can see the icons are tiny, and we have our icons displayed based on the value in the row. However, let me update this size to just be a little bit larger so that you can see each of these icons are not using the red, green, yellow, and, well, I guess the success, danger, warning, and just default classes that they were previously. They're using the universal theme just default colors. And that's because within our settings, we have this apply theme colors switch, and it's set to on. If I switch that to off, then the classes that are associated with each of these icons will be used. So now I have my danger, success, warning, and default classes being used instead of the theme colors. Last thing that we got to see kind of briefly when Menno was demoing is actions. So each template component supports some type of action, whether it's an avatar link, a title link, a full row link, or actual primary action. So you can add a button or a menu button. Let's just take a quick look to see what that looks like for content row and what the creation process looks like. So in Page Designer, underneath my tasks region, my content row region, I have this actions position, and I can create a new action. So once I create my new action, I have to select a position. Here I see I have avatar link. I have 3 different link options: avatar, title, and full row. And I also have primary actions. I think the links are pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. So let's take a look at primary actions. And here I have 2 different primary actions that are supported for content row. Not every built-in template component supports primary actions, but I think content row is potentially the only one that supports all of it. Maybe a couple of the other ones do as well, if I'm thinking off the top of my head. So let's go ahead and just create a normal button, and we'll call this an edit button. And let's change the display type to icon. And I'm just going to choose FA edit, and I'll set that to hot. I have a modal page in my application to edit, and we're going to send the ID over to it, and that should be good to go. So that's how easy it is to set up a button. Kind of similar to cards region again, where we can create these actions and set up stuff like this, but very simple, all mapped back to that template component. And let's save and run this and take a look. So now we have our content row region. We have our icon here. If I click it, open my edit modal, now I can make edits to this row and update rows as I see fit. So very straightforward, very easy, very handy, a lot easier than having to figure out how to create one of these buttons in a classic report, in a column, stuff like that. Now it's just very straightforward, fully declarative. Along with this single button, we can also create that menu button. So we're going to go back and create another primary action, and we're going to use the menu template instead of the button template. And I'm just going to call this menu. Now the difference is between this and button, we don't see anywhere directly in this high level menu to have a link, because everything will be defined within the menu items underneath this. So before I move on, I'm gonna change this to icon again, and let's just do an ellipsis. Perfect. And that looks good. And now we can just create a couple menu items. So we have our, let's do duplicate. And for right now, I'm just gonna redirect to just nothing right now. And let's have this icon be FA clone. And we're gonna create, that's not what I wanted to do, create a new menu item. And instead of a menu entry, we're actually going to choose a separator. We can see that we have a couple options here. We have our submenu and our separator. I'm going to choose a separator. I don't have to do anything else. That's it. It's going to separate my two submenu options. So finally, I'm going to create my last menu entry. I'm going to call this delete. Same deal, just to redirect to nothing right now. And we'll add an icon FA remove. Save and run. And now we have our edit button, and we also have this menu button. And so we have our duplicate and delete options, and they're separated by that little single separator there. Very easy, very straightforward. Again, much easier than having to try to figure out how to display something like this using the classic report content row template. All right. I think that is all I want to cover right now with content row. I'm not going to go into detail of all the other different type of regions, but they are all, you can go to apex.oracle.com and go to the Universal Theme Reference app and view all of the new regions and partials. So we have our avatar and badge partials, our comments and content row region types, and we also have our timeline and our media list regions as well. So these are all available in our Universal Theme Reference app. You can go check them out on your own, see different configurations of them, play around with it on your own. But there are a lot of different things that you can do with these template components that are just already built in, already available in Universal Theme. It's very powerful. It's going to make your life a lot easier. All right, last couple things that I want to cover before handing it back to Jason. So there are a few more updates to Universal Theme, kind of like a bunch of miscellaneous things, and I just want to touch on a couple of them. We just talked about these new template component regions and partials, but we also have a couple updates to some of our templates. So the hero and the title bar region templates have been updated to have this new up position. So let's take a look at that really fast. We've also, fixed a couple bugs, added a new utility class, added support for new color picker, a bunch of things that have gone on in Universal Theme. If you want to get into the nitty gritty and check all of them out, then I encourage you to go to the Universal Theme sample reference app, and then go to the reference page, and at the very bottom we have our change log, and that change log is where everything is going to be listed of what exactly is new in Universal Theme 23.1, all the details, everything you might want to know. Okay, so our hero and title bar regions have been updated to have this new position, and it's called the up position, and it allows you to put a button to the left of your title or hero regions. So if we kind of take a look at this really quick, just a slightly detailed, this region is using the title bar template, and I have this up button, which is in the up position. So now we have this one position available, so you can add a button super easily in this position. It's like, the fact that this is now available is just going to make things so much easier. Instead of trying to do it on your own and trying to hack your way around it, it's very simple to just create a title bar, create a hero region, and then just add a button in this position. So I think that's an important template update that I wanted to note. And then last thing is just a couple updates, enhancements to region display selector. So the two main things are region display selectors now support region icons in the tabs of the region display selector. So you can see here, I have my 3 regions on this page, and each one of them has a different icon associated with them. And if we take a look, so each region within appearance in the icon property has its own icon. And so when our region display selector has the, that's not region, when my region display selector has the display region icons attribute set to yes, then any icon that's in each one of these regions will be displayed in these region display selector tabs. So I think that's one main thing. The other main thing is how region display selectors remember the active tab. So we have adjusted it. So now developers have more control over how region display selectors remember tabs. And we can see, if we take a look at our region display selector attributes, we have this remember selection property, which was there before, but it was a switch. Now it's been updated to a select list, and you can choose whether you want to remember tabs based on your users. So each individual user can have their own preference that's set. You can remember by session. So every time your session resets, your region display selector also resets, or you could just never remember selection at all. Right now, mine's set to by session. So if I refresh this page, then my media list region will be remembered. If I were to log out and log back in, it would reset back to show all. So just a couple minor enhancements, but I think they're important to note. Like I said, if you want to see more, if you want to learn more, Universal Theme Sample app is the place to go. You can see all the details about the new template components, new template partials. You can see details about the changelog, and there's a lot to learn from this sample app. And hand it back to you, Jason.
All those little features as you describe them are just tremendous. I mean, the buzz around, technology these days is Chat GPT and AI, but quite honestly, every new release of Apex is making it so that, people's jobs are being replaced that do high code, because Apex just makes it so much easier to do things that are otherwise complex. And now these declarative options just make it so much fun. It's just really, truly a great time to be an Apex developer. Thank you, Paige, for all of that demo and the discussion around that content. So that was Paige talking about Universal Theme updates. We're going to move on to Dalia, who's going to talk about download and upload themes in ThemeRoller. Over to you, Dalia. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I'm Dalia Vasquez. I'm from Apex Team in Mexico, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. I'm very happy to talk about all these new features that Apex has. Especially ThemeRoller with upload and download themes. This is a new feature that I'm sure that will be very easy to use and very helpful for a lot of people. This will be a very quick presentation and a very quick demo, because this new feature is really easy to use and really easy to understand. I'm sure that in less than 10 minutes, you will understand and know how to use it and know everything about that. Well, let's go to the application. The only thing that you need to upload and download themes is have an application made in Apex, and this is mine. And when you have it, the only thing that you need to do is go customize, and here you will select ThemeRoller. I'm sure that a lot of you know about ThemeRoller, but for those old people that really doesn't know a lot about it, or it's their first approach, I'm gonna talk a little about ThemeRoller. ThemeRoller is this tool that you are seeing in my screen. It's where you can upload and download the themes, but also where you can manage and control every single thing of how your application is seen, how it looks, and like change the colors of the palette of colors. Well, you even could put your own CSS here. And we have also these themes I already created, are for Vita and one for Redwood Light. But also, if you want to create one of your own theme in base of one of these ones, you could. Mine is here, it's demo. And as I said before, you could change everything that you wanted here for make it look pretty, your application. But what happened when you really like a style that you have, but you want to still playing with Steamroller? Well, before, when you want to come back to one style that you had in your theme, the thing that you should do is figure out what were the values that you put in all the options. And it's not very easy because not a lot of people know or remember what he put it in all these regions. Today, it's more easy. You only need to change everything that you want to change here. And after that, save it. And go here to this little button here and export the theme. This will export a JSON file. In this JSON file will be all the settings that you change in Steamroller. So if you go to another theme or you want to still playing around in Steamroller, don't worry about lose your previous theme, your previous data. The only thing that you need to do is import it again. And this will change everything for the values that you have in the JSON file. This is very useful when you're working with a lot of people or that you like how it's look another application. The only thing that you have to do is go to that one application and download the theme that is used. And after upload to your own application. So this can be do it between your own application and also between the applications of other people. So if you have some partner that is working with Apex too, and you really like how the application of that partner is looking, well, the only thing that you need to do is ask him for the JSON file. And one important thing that to mention is that as I said before, and we have two different kind of themes, Redwood Light and Vita. And what happens if you use Redwood Light? If you upload a Vita theme in Redwood Light, well, don't worry, that will not break anything. Your application will still work it as the same as ever. The only thing that could happen is that you didn't see a lot of changes because Redwood Light and Vita use different values for their options. So automatically it will take the values that this file have and apply it if it's required in their theme. What happened with Redwood and Vita, it's that, well, as I said before, it's not used at the same values. So if you want to see a really big change, you should work with Vita and the files with Vita or Redwood with the Redwood. And well, as I said, this is a very quick demo and a very quick presentation. I think that this is really, really easy to use, and I hope that you enjoy it, this little feature here. Tell me what you think about it. If you want if you have some questions or comments, or even if you only want to talk about what are you doing in Apex, well, all the team are happy to listen to you, to hear you, because, well, we love it to know what are you doing with Apex. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much, Dalia, for that, explaining how to download and upload themes in Theme Roller is new in Apex 23.1. It's great seeing how this is progressing, making the job of an Apex developer that much easier and making it even more fun. I mean, the whole creative opportunity of allowing people to do this kind of thing in their apps and then being able to export or share them to save them and, have other people use them is just tremendous. Everyone in the chat is talking up about how people want to start creating themes and things like that and being able to distribute them. We'll see how it goes. Just an exciting time to be an Apex developer still. So with that, we've had over 30 questions that have been answered in the Q&A. I do want to thank everyone once again for your time here on Apex office hours. I don't see that we have any questions that would be appropriate in the time remaining. So if you have any other use cases or any other questions that you'd like to go into in more detail, please use the forum at apex.oracle.com/forum. And there's an Apex category where you can create a new post, describe your situation, whatever you're trying to do. And the Apex team pays attention and we participate in answering all of your questions. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And if you have any other ideas, we do have an ideas app for submission at apex.oracle.com/ideas. And if you can create and submit new ideas there, we're reviewing them on the regular. And as you'll see very soon with the release of Apex 23.1 in the general availability category, a lot of the Apex ideas that have been submitted over the last year have made it into Apex 23.1. And of course, that's pretty exciting even for me. So with that, everyone, may the 4th be with you, right? Live long and prosper. It's great to see everyone. And again, next week is part 4, however you want to do that. Don't be mad at me, but I love Star Trek. Star Wars is cool too. And thank you again for everyone. See you next week and all the other office hours coming forward. Again, thank you to our presenters and the entire team answering the questions in the Q&A. Till next week, everyone. We'll see you. Bye-bye.